Under the orange sky of the frontier world Karos 9, the ground shook with slow, heavy pulses. Each vibration traveled through stone, metal, and bone. The alien research team felt it even inside their armored observation platform. Every member knew what it meant. Something massive was moving. Lyra stood near the wide viewing window, her hands tight around a data slate she no longer read. She was a xenobiologist, trained to observe life calmly and from a distance, but the creature approaching was not a simple specimen. It was the apex predator of Karos 9, a living nightmare the locals called the Gorthak. It stood taller than transport vehicles, covered in layered bone plates, with arms thick as tree trunks and claws that could tear through reinforced steel. No one survived a close encounter with a Gorthak. That was a known fact across several systems. The research team had come only to scan traces, not to meet one face to face. Something had gone wrong. A storm earlier had knocked out long-range sensors. The emergency transport was hours away. They were trapped. Distance, one of the guards asked, his voice tight. Closing fast, another replied. Too fast. Fear filled the room. Some aliens backed away from the window, others froze. Lyra could not move. Her species was not built for combat. None of them were. Then she noticed someone standing outside. At first, she thought her eyes were lying. The figure was small compared to the Gorthak. A single human, standing on open ground with no heavy weapon in sight. Just basic combat armor scuffed and worn and bare hands clenched slowly into fists. "Is that a human?" someone whispered. "Yes," the commander said, disbelief heavy in his tone. "One of the security escorts." His name was Elias Ward. Lyra remembered him from the journey. Quiet, polite, always checking equipment twice. He had helped her carry crates without being asked. He smiled easily, but there was something calm in his eyes that now felt unsettling. "Tell him to retreat," a scientist shouted. "That thing will kill him." Orders were sent. Warnings flashed across his comm unit. Elias did not run. He rolled his shoulders once like someone preparing for hard labor. He took a slow breath. Then he walked forward. The Gorthak roared. The sound slammed into the platform like a physical force. Lyra gasped, her ears ringing. The creature charged, each step cracking the ground, its mouth opening wide enough to swallow the human whole. Elias sprinted forward instead of away. Lyra's breath caught in her throat. Her mind screamed that this was wrong. No being chose to run toward death. The distance closed in seconds. The Gorthak swung one massive arm, claws slicing through the air. Elias dropped low, the strike passing inches above him. The shockwave flipped debris into the air. Before the creature could recover, Elias leapt. He jumped impossibly high. He landed against the creature's chest, his boots digging between bone plates. His hands grabbed a ridge of armor, muscles straining. The Gorthak slammed him against the ground again and again, trying to crush him. Lyra expected to see blood. Instead, Elias pushed back. With a roar of effort, he drove his fist into a weak seam beneath the creature's throat. Bone cracked. The sound echoed across the valley. The Gorthak staggered. The platform went silent. Elias dropped, rolled, and came up moving. He circled, eyes locked on the predator, reading it like a puzzle instead of a monster. The Gorthak lunged again. Elias met it head-on. He grabbed one of its arms. Lyra stared, unable to understand what she was seeing. The human's muscles bulged, armor straining. The Gorthak tried to pull free, but Elias twisted, using leverage and timing instead of brute force alone. There was a sickening snap. The creature screamed. Elias did not stop. He moved with terrifying efficiency. He struck joints, tore exposed tissue, and used the creature's own weight against it. Each movement was precise, practiced, learned through pain and survival. He was not angry, he was focused. The Gorthak fell to one knee. Elias climbed again, faster this time. He drove both hands into a split in the creature's skull plating and pulled. Lyra felt her stomach turn as bones separated with a wet, cracking sound. The apex predator convulsed once, then collapsed. Dust rose into the air. The ground stopped shaking. For a long moment no one spoke. The Gorthak lay in chunks across the valley floor, not burned, not blasted apart by weapons, torn by a human. Elias stood among the remains, chest rising and falling, his armor scratched and dented but intact. He looked small again without the creature towering over him. He wiped his hands on his armor and looked toward the platform. "Threat neutralized," he said calmly over the comm. "Area secure." Lyra's legs gave out. She sat heavily on the floor, her mind spinning. Her training offered no explanation for what she had witnessed. Apex predators did not lose fights like that. Later, when Elias returned to the platform, the room parted around him without thought. No one wanted to be close, not out of hatred, out of awe and fear mixed together. He removed his helmet, revealing a tired but gentle face. He smiled when he saw Lyra sitting on the floor. "Are you all right, ma'am?" he asked. She nodded slowly, unable to speak. "Good," he said. "That thing was getting too close, too close." As if the creature had merely been an inconvenience. Medical scans showed Elias had multiple fractures, torn muscles, and internal bruising. He should not have been standing, let alone fighting. He refused sedation until the team was safe. Lyra watched from across the room as human medics worked quickly. Elias joked with them quietly, brushing off concern. When they finally forced him to rest, he closed his eyes like someone finishing a long day of work. That night, the storm returned. Wind howled outside the platform, carrying distant roars from other predators deeper in the wilderness. The aliens huddled together, shaken. Lyra could not sleep. She replayed the fight again and again in her mind. Not just the strength, but the choice. Elias had stepped forward when everyone else froze. He had not been ordered. He had simply decided. She realized something unsettling. Humans did not see themselves as prey. The next morning, long-range comms were restored. News of the encounter spread quickly. Requests for footage came flooding in. The commander hesitated, then released a limited recording. Across the sector, beings watched in disbelief. Lyra began her report, hands shaking slightly as she typed. She did not exaggerate. She did not add emotion. She wrote only what she observed. A human had engaged an apex predator in close combat and won. But the deeper truth was harder to put into words. Humans were shaped by a world that tried to kill them in countless ways. They learned to endure pain, to adapt, to fight smarter, and to stand their ground when retreat meant death for others. Elias woke later that day and asked only one question. "Is everyone safe?" When Lyra answered yes, he relaxed. In that moment, she understood something that changed her forever. The most dangerous thing about humans was not their strength. It was their decision to use it to protect. And somewhere beyond the storm-covered hills of Karos 9, other predators moved in the dark, unaware that they were no longer the most feared beings on the planet. At first, it was shared quietly between research groups and military analysts. Then it leaked. Within hours, it appeared on civilian networks across multiple systems. Aliens of many species watched the same impossible scene again and again. A lone human charging an apex predator. No heavy weapons. No machines. Just a body moving with purpose and control. And at the end, the predator lay in pieces. Some called it fake. Others said the footage was altered. But too many experts confirmed the data, the gravity readings, the biosignatures, the timestamps. It was real. On Karos 9, the research platform felt different now. The fear that once filled the halls had changed into something heavier, respect mixed with unease. Wherever Elias Ward walked, conversation stopped. Eyes followed him, not because he demanded attention, but because his presence reminded everyone of what they had seen. Lyra noticed the change more than anyone. She found herself watching Elias during meals, during briefings, during quiet moments when he thought no one noticed. He moved carefully now, injuries slowing him, but his posture remained steady. He thanked staff. He helped where he could. He apologized when he could not do more. He looked like an ordinary human. That made it worse. Lyra's report was no longer just a scientific document. It had become required reading for security councils across the sector. She was asked to expand it to explain human behavior, human endurance, human psychology. She struggled. How could she explain a species that lived with danger so closely that it no longer shocked them? The answer came sooner than she expected. 3 days after the Gorthak was killed, the sensors detected movement again. Not one signature, many. A migration. The death of the apex predator had broken a balance older than recorded history. Smaller predators moved into new territories. Larger ones followed. The planet was reacting. Evacuation was ordered immediately, but Karos 9 did not care about orders. The storm returned with greater force than before. Atmospheric interference blocked outgoing ships. The platform's shields strained under constant pressure. Power fluctuated. The emergency transport that was supposed to arrive was forced to turn back. They were trapped again. This time it was worse. Creatures gathered near the platform, drawn by noise, heat, and unfamiliar life. Security drones were deployed, but they only delayed the inevitable. Ammunition was limited. Energy reserves were dropping. The commander called an emergency meeting. "We cannot hold this position for long," he said. "If the perimeter fails, casualties will be severe." Silence followed. Everyone knew what that meant. Elias was leaning against the wall, arms crossed loosely. He looked tired. He had been told to rest. He had ignored it. "I can draw them away," he said calmly. The room reacted instantly. "No," the commander said. "Absolutely not." Elias did not argue. He simply waited. "They are reacting to territory loss," he continued. "Confused, aggressive. If I move far enough, they will follow." "And if they do?" Lyra asked before she could stop herself. Elias looked at her. His expression was gentle, not offended. "Then I'll adapt," he said. Lyra felt a chill, not from fear for him, from fear of what he accepted so easily. The commander refused at first, but options vanished one by one. Defensive lines would collapse within hours. Evacuation might never come. In the end, the decision was made. Elias would leave the platform alone and lead the creatures away, buying time for repairs and escape. Preparation was quick. He refused heavy weapons again, choosing only tools and limited explosives, not to kill everything, to control the flow. Before he left, Lyra approached him. "You don't have to do this," she said softly. He smiled. "Someone does." She searched his face for fear and found none, only resolve. "Your species will be feared after this," she said. He shrugged. "Fear fades. Survival matters more." He stepped outside. The moment he crossed the perimeter, movement surged. Creatures rose from the shadows, massive shapes shifting through dust and stone. They roared, sensing prey. Elias ran, not in panic, with intention. He led them into the open plains, away from the platform. When one closed too fast, he turned and struck with speed and precision, disabling without wasting energy. When another tried to flank him, he used terrain, leaping across broken rock where heavier bodies struggled to follow. Lyra watched through the feeds, heart racing. This was not a battle, it was a lesson. Elias used everything: gravity, momentum, pain tolerance. He kept moving even as wounds reopened. When blood flowed, he ignored it. When muscles screamed, he pushed harder. The predators followed, driven by instinct. For hours. Back at the platform, repairs continued under pressure. Shields flickered. Power stabilized slowly. Every minute Elias stayed alive meant another chance. The feeds showed him finally slowing. Creatures surrounded him on all sides. Lyra felt something break inside her. Then Elias did something unexpected. He stopped running. He stood still. The predators hesitated, confused by prey that did not flee. Elias activated a device and drove it into the ground. A deep vibration spread outward, mimicking the territorial signal of a dominant predator. The effect was immediate. The creatures reacted, roaring and clashing with one another instead of attacking him. He had learned their language, using pain, observation, and logic. The chaos bought him time to escape into a canyon too narrow for the largest creatures to enter. One by one, they turned away, redirected by instinct and confusion. The feeds cut out soon after. Hours later, evacuation ships broke through the storm. The platform was saved, but Elias did not return. Search teams found him the next day, unconscious but alive, sheltered beneath rock formations. His body was pushed far beyond safe limits. Any other species would have died long before. When he woke aboard the medical ship, he tried to sit up. "Don't," a medic said firmly. Elias sighed. "Did it work?" "Yes," the medic said. "You saved everyone." Elias closed his eyes. Relief crossed his face. Across the sector, the story changed. Humans were no longer just survivors. They were problem solvers in the face of terror. They did not dominate through numbers or technology alone. They dominated through will. Lyra watched the stars as the ship jumped to hyperspace. Her final report was shorter than expected. It ended with a simple conclusion. If humanity ever chose to conquer, no predator, no empire, and no fear would stop them. The only reason the galaxy slept peacefully was because humans chose not to rule it. And that, Lyra realized, was the most terrifying truth of all. If you want, I can continue with part 3, where the galaxy finally responds, and fear truly changes sides. The galaxy did not react with panic at first. It reacted with silence. After the evacuation from Karos 9, official channels delayed public statements. Governments reviewed data. Councils argued. Military leaders watched the recordings in locked rooms. The image of a single human standing against creatures that had wiped out entire colonies played again and again. No one spoke openly, but everyone reached the same conclusion. Humans were underestimated. Elias Ward became a classified name. His medical recovery happened aboard a deep-space human vessel, far from alien observers. His injuries were severe. Bones needed time to heal. Muscles had been torn and repaired more than once. Any other species would have been permanently crippled. The doctors warned him to stop pushing himself. He listened. Then he ignored them quietly. Lyra was transferred to a diplomatic research station near the galactic core. Her report was now required reading for interspecies negotiations. She was asked to speak to councils, to explain what she had seen, to define what humans truly were. She struggled every time. "They are not monsters," she said again and again. "They are not gods. They are survivors who refuse to let others die when they can still act." Some listened. Many did not. Fear spreads faster than understanding. Rumors grew. Stories changed. In some versions, Elias killed dozens of apex predators alone. In others, humans were secretly engineered weapons. Old prejudices resurfaced. Some species demanded restrictions on human expansion. Others pushed for alliances. A few chose a darker path. The Varkesh Dominion was one of them. They were an ancient power, proud and territorial. Their rule depended on fear. When they saw humans earning respect without demanding it, they saw a threat to their control. They decided to test humanity. A border colony, lightly defended and shared by multiple species, was chosen. The Varkesh did not declare war. They sent security forces to restore order, knowing resistance would be minimal. They were wrong. The humans at the colony were not soldiers. They were engineers, farmers, medics, and families. But when the Varkesh arrived, weapons drawn and voices raised, something changed. Humans stood together. They did not attack first. They spoke. They warned. They tried to de-escalate. When the Varkesh opened fire, everything ended. Lyra watched the footage later with shaking hands. Humans moved fast, not reckless, organized. They protected civilians first. They used the environment. Tools became weapons. Vehicles became shields. Every human knew where to stand without being told. The Varkesh had superior numbers. It did not matter. Within hours, the occupation failed. Survivors fled, broadcasting frantic messages about human resistance. Not savage, not chaotic, controlled, efficient. The galaxy took notice. Emergency councils were called, borders were reassessed. Long-standing power balances shifted overnight. Humans issued a single statement. We will defend ourselves and those under our protection. We seek peace. Do not mistake restraint for weakness. It was simple. It terrified those who understood it. Elias was informed of the events while still recovering. He watched the reports quietly. When asked for comment, he gave none. They did what they had to do, he said once, same as always. Lyra finally met him again months later at a joint summit. He walked with a slight stiffness now, but his eyes were the same. Calm, observant, human. She approached him slowly. You changed the galaxy, she said. He smiled faintly. No, the galaxy finally looked closely. Around them, delegates whispered. Some avoided his gaze. Others studied him like a living weapon. Elias ignored it all. During the summit, a proposal was raised. Some species demanded limitations on human military presence. Others argued humans should lead joint defense forces against external threats. Elias was not meant to speak, but when a delegate claimed humans were too dangerous to be trusted, the room turned toward him. He stood slowly. I am not here to represent all humans, he said, but I'll say this. We are dangerous because the universe forced us to be. Our world tried to kill us every day. We learned, we adapted, we survived. He paused, letting the translator carry his words. We do not enjoy violence. We endure it when needed. If you fear us, ask yourself why. Is it because we attack without reason, or because we refuse to break when threatened? Silence filled the chamber. No one challenged him. That same week, a greater danger emerged. A deep space anomaly released entities older than known civilization. They consumed energy, matter, and life without pattern. Entire systems went dark. Fleets sent to investigate vanished. The galaxy panicked. This time, the councils did not hesitate. They asked humanity for help. Human scientists studied the data. Human engineers built countermeasures. Human soldiers volunteered without hesitation. Not for glory, not for dominance, because someone had to go first. Elias insisted on joining the mission. You're not fully healed, a commander warned. Elias checked his gear. Then I'll be careful. The joint fleet entered the dark zone weeks later. Alien ships held formation behind human vessels. When the entities attacked, it was humans who adapted fastest. They changed tactics mid-battle. They sacrificed ground to save lives. They pushed forward when logic said retreat. The entities learned something new that day. Humans did not fight like prey. They fought like a force that refused extinction. The battle was costly. Ships were lost, lives were lost, but the advance stopped. The anomaly was sealed. The galaxy survived. Afterward, no one questioned humanity's place again. Fear still existed, but it had changed. It was no longer fear of the unknown. It was respect for a species that could endure horror and still choose restraint. Lyra completed her final work years later. It was no longer a report. It was a warning and a promise written together. Humans are not the strongest. They are not the largest. They are not the oldest. They are the ones who stand when others fall. They are the ones who move toward danger when retreat would be easier. They are the ones who rip monsters apart not because they want to, but because someone must. Elias retired quietly. He returned to Earth. He worked with his hands. He helped rebuild places broken by war. Most people never knew his name. He preferred it that way. Some nights when the stars were clear, Lyra thought of Karo's 9. Of the moment fear changed shape. Of the day she watched a human face an apex predator and refused to bow. The galaxy still had monsters, but it also had humans, and for the first time in its